everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Behind the Breakthroughs. And I'm so delighted and pleased to welcome our guest, Miss Taiwo Alawade. Drum roll, drum roll. So, Miss Taiwo, I'm so happy to have you here. And in our premiere episode of Behind the Breakthroughs, where we talk and we discuss with scientists to kind of get into the minds of those who are causing the breakthroughs in science and in the world, changing lives for the better. So, how have you been?
I'm fine. I'm doing
You're doing
fine. How have you
okay.
been too?
I'm so excited to have you. So, I'm your host, Dr. Tina Agbaosi. For those who don't know me, I'm an infectious disease physician and a metagenomics enthusiast. So I believe that science is more than just data. I believe that science is going to change the world, and it's already changed the world, and it's still continuing to change the world, and it's deeply, deeply human. And that's why I'm really grateful for the opportunity to get to speak to scientists through this new series of Behind the Breakthroughs. So our premiere episode today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the invisible battles that have been fought with water, microbes, antimicrobial resistance, and that's the focus of Miss Taiwo Alawade. So, for those who don't know Miss Taiwo Alawade, she's a public health researcher and the team lead for the Next Gen Antimicrobial Steward Initiative. So, we first met at a metagenomics course, and she really stood out to me. And she can tell you, I literally haunted. I haunted her when after it was a virtual event. So I haunted her. I was like, hey, I need to get in touch with you. I need to connect with you because she has such a brilliant mind just from the way she interacted in that course. From our very first conversation, her passion for water, microbiology, antimicrobial resistance just shone through. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and thank you, Miss Taiwo, for coming on board.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay. Um, so let's dive into it right away. I have a few notes, so if you see me looking down, I'm really just reading my notes. So excuse me if I'm not really distracted. I'm really reading my notes. So Miss Taiwo, before we get into the science, what first pulled you into what you do now, public health?
That's actually a very long story, but I'll try and cut it short. So for me, growing up, there was a particular stage in my life, I think when I was around 11, 12 years old, and I had this infectious disease that was highly communicable, and I had to be on drugs for several months. And because of that, I have to go to the hospital, go to the doctor almost every day so that they ensure I'm taking my drugs. And that childhood experience actually taught me a lot because even before they finally took me to the hospital, if anyone is familiar of UCH, there's this prayer they pray where I come from, like, may we not see any reason to go to UCH. So when I had to finally go to the hospital, they've tried several other methods that was not working, and the hospital was like the rat. UCH was the last resort. And I can
Mm-hmm.
remember the doctor telling my guidance then that if you had brought this girl one more month later, you could have just noticed she woke up. She slept and she didn't wake up. So
Uh-huh.
that experience was it was a very life defining experience for me, and I knew within me that when I grow up, I want to be able to advocate for public health because looking back at that illness, it was such that because it was then when we don't really have much information about all of this kind of infectious disease. Internet was not a thing back then, so people didn't even know the symptoms of that disease, talk less of them kind of addressing it. So looking back, I told myself that when I grow up, I really want to make a change. I want to advocate, let people know when you notice a symptom, this is what is actually happening, and all of those. So these are some of the things that really jeered me or was like an inspiration to me, wanting to venture into public health to be able to, number one, um, do advocacy when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
public health issues, and also through research contribute to solving some of these public health challenges that we currently face. So it's more of a personal journey for me that really led me to public health. And because it's so personal to me, and I feel it's something that everyone should actually, in one way or the other, be a public health advocate in our own little way. But I just chose to pursue it as a profession because I felt I have a lot to contribute in this field.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Wow, that was a really deeply personal motivation or spark for sure. So, and I understand what you're saying. When people are not aware of an illness, they are not likely to seek help for it. So that's where it starts from awareness, and then they are less likely to even receive a vaccination that could prevent the illness, right? So I can understand, definitely understand what you're saying. Thank you so much. And advocacy, education, those are the bedrock of public health. So we're just talking behind or backstage about the course that we did, because I am a metagenomics enthusiast, but you said you have been in several other courses because you've been applying this kind of in your work. Is there anything that you have used the whole new technology in helping you be more proficient in public health? Is it through the R studio, R study, through your statistics or your documentation, that all of these new technological tools are helping you with, that you might want to share with us?
Thank you so much for that question. So I would first of all say metagenomics, like you said, it's actually a very powerful tool in public health, and not just only public health, even in other fields like biology, bioinformatics, and all the likes. Excuse me. So for me, metagenomics, for instance, my current area of research, which is more of water and environment, for instance, with through the help of metagenomics, there are what we call there are some microbes we call they are viable, but they are not culturable. That is,
Mm,
they're actually present in the environment, for instance, but you can't culture them with the normal culture media and all of those things. So that is also where metagenomics comes in, and that doesn't mean these microbes that are not culturable are not harmful. So we've been able to use metagenomics in this aspect to be able to know what exactly is present in the environment, what is present in the water, for instance, what is present in the air, what is present in the soil, which we may not have been able to know if we're just trying to culture them on using the culture media method. So that is one very good aspect of metagenomics. Then aside for that, in the area of public health, for instance, when there's like an outbreak of disease and you don't know where the disease is like coming from, you want to trace the origin of that disease, or maybe of the microbe or the bacteria causing the disease, you can definitely use metagenomics, in doing this kind of study where you can tell the ancestral lineage of the bacteria, for instance. So we've been able to apply that in public health, and it has been very useful
mm,
in providing solutions. And also, when we're talking of gene editing and stuff like that, metagenomics has been very, very useful in this aspect. And we've been able to apply it, for instance, in my lab, where we do a lot of aside from the cultural method, which we do, we also do a lot of metagenomics. And I would also want to say that the quality is not just about doing metagenomics, it's about the quality of the DNA, for instance. If it's not well, even right from the sample collection, if you are not collecting the sample right, every other thing is already wrong from the start. So most times I see that a lot of people are focusing on metagenomics, but they're ignoring the aspect that could affect the quality of your
mm.
sequences and everything that you get. So right from going to the field, make sure you're collecting it and collecting your samples the right way, using the right tools, to the point of doing your DNA extraction. Like, what method are you using for your DNA extraction? That would definitely affect what kind of kit are you using for your extraction. To affect your results.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
output.
yeah, the output of maybe your sequences and all of that. And then when it comes after your DNA extraction, the point where you take it for sequencing, checking the quality of the read, is it of good quality, doing the trimming. So it's actually a long process. And I just want to say that it starts from sample collection, first of all. It starts from, so everything there has to be quality control along the line so that you can have good data, and then you can then apply the bioinformatics to metagenomics and all that
Mm.
in getting the results. So it's more of a broader picture, but sometimes we get lost in the buzzword like metagenomics, and we forget about those other aspects. So I just want to bring that into it. So it's not just about working on the computer and trying to know what kind of bacteria is in this sequence, but starting even from sample collection and all of making sure that the quality control is very intact. So we've been able to apply it in environmental health, in the lab where I'm working, and in other aspect of public health generally.
Wow, that's amazing. That was just gold, what you shared. I wasn't sure what I was going to get, but that was really good. And it starts from the sample collection. And I agree with you. Because like you were saying, we could get carried away with the tech. But if you did not get the sample correctly, then you may completely miss out on what you're even trying to achieve. That's really good. Thank you so much for that. So do you mind sharing with us you talked a little bit about your lab. I'm kind of going off script here, but I wanted to just dive in, dive a little deeper on that, because I'm really interested. At our last ID meeting, there was a lot of talking about wastewater surveillance and antimicrobial resistance and how all of that is playing. And I see that you have a passion with that, with your antimicrobial resistance. Propaganda, the One Health issue, the One Health solution. That was really interesting. I kind of went into that while I was working with the next gen at the mentorship meeting. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that so we can educate or just let our audience know some more about what you're doing in your lab? Because this is really good stuff, what she just kind of hinted at.
Oh, okay. So talking about wastewater, we
Mm.
all had this experience about COVID-19, right? Everybody was scared and all of that. So one of the things that I know people have been able to do with wastewater is, with wastewater can be like a sentinel tool that could tell you what kind of outbreak may likely happen in the future. For instance, where
Mm.
people, they go collect wastewater samples, process it in the lab, run metagenomics and any other form of tool,
So,
and at the end of the day they can tell you that, oh, this particular wastewater, there's excuse me, there's a high level of this particular pathogen, which could be an
mm,
indicator that there's an
there's
outbreak going on somewhere, right?
oh,
And that was
good.
also very useful during COVID-19, especially for viruses. For instance, they are like, they could predict and tell you what exactly is happening in the community. There are times when we have community acquired illnesses like some MRSA that could be community acquired. For instance,
Versa.
samples
Mm-hmm.
from samples from for those that don't know MRSA, that's methicillin resistant staphylococcus aureus. So
Yes.
samples from this wastewater can help you to know, for instance, is there a high level of MRSA in that particular environment where the water sample is being collected from, and that can give you an idea of what is happening in the community. So people have been able to actually use wastewater to predict what is happening in the community in terms of maybe illnesses or outbreaks, especially when you collect those water from maybe hospitals, for instance, or some other maybe near the home where the wastewater is being generated. So it can really give a lot of information. And when it comes to the issue of antimicrobial resistance, I've everybody is now talking about antimicrobial resistance,
Okay.
but I feel we are doing more talking and less of action, especially in low
Mhm.
and middle income countries, right? And metagenomics, like we were earlier discussing, is also a very important tool. For instance, when it
Absolutely.
comes to antimicrobial resistant genes, these are genes that you can use metagenomics to be able to detect when it is present,
Identify.
either in the
Mhm.
environment or maybe through human samples and all of that. And when it comes to antimicrobial resistance, it's not just about, oh, antimicrobial resistance is happening, it's about what would has been affected. And research has shown that people from low and middle income countries are the ones that are mostly affected by AMR. And why? Because unlike here in the US, where you have, for instance, you can't just go and buy drugs just without a doctor's prescription, right? You need a doctor's prescription before you can get your drug. And you also, as a doctor, you need to prescribe it to people before they can go get their drug. But back in Africa, that is not the case. Anybody can go to the pharmacist and get their drugs. And when people keep using these drugs over and over again, even without prescription, at the end of the day, the bacteria develops resistance. So it's not people that are developing resistance. Some people get it confused. It is the bacteria or the virus or whatsoever microbe that develops that resistance. And when the resistance happens, then you keep using a particular drug and then it's no longer working. Like the case of malaria. I remember when we were still young, there was what they call chloroquine. I don't know if some other people could know it. It was very active back then, like just one tablet and it works well. But over time, because of resistance, we start using things like Amatem. And then because Amatem was no longer strong enough, we went to Amatem Forte. And we keep adding upon, and now a drug of malaria can cost thousands of naira now, which wasn't the case back then. And this is the economic impact of AMR that we're also not paying attention to. So AMR has a ripple effect. It's not just about microbes developing resistance. It has economic implication. It has health implication. When you are sick and you can't go to work because the drugs you are using are no longer working, you also lose your source of income. It has effect on your economic. So all of these things is not just about we scientists wanting to create fear. It's actually something that is happening and is affecting people. And I know people that have told me stories of how they've lost their loved ones due to AMR, because the infection that they had could not be treated. Each time they keep treating it, there's this resistance that keeps occurring. So this is actually a great issue of global health significance. And talking about One Health, so One Health is like you combining environmental health, human health, and animal health, and these three are actually interlinked. But excuse me, over the years, people have paid attention more on human health, and they've neglected the environment aspect. And this what I just explained about wastewater tells you the role of the environment, even in helping us in finding solutions to some of these problems. So One Health actually encompasses both of these, the environment, the human, and also the animal health. For instance, imagine if there's a high level of resistance of bacteria in a particular wastewater, and this wastewater is being discharged into the river, and people use that same river for maybe irrigation of their crops or maybe for feeding their livestock. With time, the animals also develop resistance to these bacteria. So it's a cycle. So that's where the One Health issue comes in, and that's why we need to address the issue of AMR using a One Health concept. I I don't over. I don't know if I've said one or two minutes in answer.
No, no, you can keep going on and on. You are amazing. I love it. Oh my goodness, I can feel the passion. I can feel it literally. Thank you so much for that. Honestly, I feel like this is a really sweet spot where we've completely gone off script at this point. And I feel like this is a sweet spot because this is something that, as a physician, I'm an infectious disease specialist. I see that is really what I treat, all the infections, right? That's all I do in the hospital. Um, we see the clinical implications of antimicrobial resistance, and it's just a joy to hear from you, bringing in also the human aspect of it, apart from the human aspect of the single person who we're having difficulty. Yes, and it can lead to death. Yes, when you're not able to, you've run out of choices of antibiotics to treat the infection. Yes, it can lead to death. But then you're talking about all of the other implications: loss of income, right? And family economic implications, and then talking about the cause of the antimicrobial resistance, something as simple as people getting antibiotics just because they have a little fever, which could be a virus that if you had waited one more day, you probably have gotten over it with your own immune system. But then they just go to the pharmacy and pick up an antibiotics, pick up anti-malaria. Everything is malaria when you're growing up. everything is malaria. And then chloroquine just literally became the mosquitoes and the plasmodium just poof, chloroquine completely not effective. And so each time we keep looking for a stronger and a stronger drug. And each time these drugs are becoming more expensive. So even being able to afford the drug, it's a problem. And then the days time off of work. And I'm so glad you brought all of that. That was really, really amazing. And then tying it also to the animals, how those bacteria or the microbes in the wastewater eventually go around, get in through the environment, get into the irrigation cycle in the crops. The animals can feed on those drugs. So when those microbes become part of the um, what we call colonized part of the normal system in the animal, it creates a situation where they can become predisposed to superbug infection, what we'll call superbug infection. And then you need higher drugs. And then one thing that is also a big issue here in that whole One Health animal environment and human is using antibiotics in livestock. So I believe in Africa, the problem is we humans are taking antibiotics indiscriminately. The animals maybe not much, but over on the West, I think the more of a problem are the animals are being given antibiotics indiscriminately. And I believe even plants also are being treated with antibiotics, yes. So even though the drugs may not sound like what humans are taking, but they're all really in the same class. And there's this cross effectiveness and cross resistance that go through different drug classes, antibiotic drug classes, whether it's a drug medication that plants that they are using to treat their plants or medication they're using to treat their animals. And they give the animals all these medicines even when they don't need them. And so these antibiotics, apart from the fact that they are creating antimicrobial resistance in the animals, indirectly we may be taking those medications when we eat the animal. So you may have been like, well, I've never taken a drug in my life, but literally that chicken you ate may have been loaded with tetracycline or something, and you just took a big dose of tetracycline, which ends up creating that same effect in you. So that was such a very, very, very insightful take, and I just wanted to let you go on and on and on. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. What part of your work do you feel feels invisible? You may have touched already on that already, but what part of your work do you feel feels invisible?
Okay. So when you're talking about invisible, does it really mean in terms of like people don't even notice? Or
Yes. Yeah, people will not notice, but it may be having an effect that is really far reaching, but it just feels like it's normal. But behind the scenes, what you're doing is actually what is causing a powerful ripple effect. Yes.
yeah, I'm trying to think on that, and I think from let me speak from the lens of a microbial or a microbiology researcher, for instance. For
Yeah.
I would say, people are more interested in the result. Like, okay, you've published your work in the paper, and they are reading it, and it's so sweet to read papers, and but what goes into that paper, it's a whole lot. For instance, I I was talking about sample collection the other time. For instance, going to the field. Sometimes it's raining and you have to be in the field. That's
Mm.
that's that's one thing. Troubleshooting, for instance, recently I was trying to like grow a particular bacteria, and I can see that it's there. All the um all the test is revealing that this bacteria is there, but PCR is not giving me the right result, right? And that troubleshooting aspect is also something that I think is invisible, and especially for researchers that people really don't see that time when you need to be maybe in the lab or maybe on your laptop and troubleshoot stuff till it works out. That is one aspect that I think it's often neglected, and we're just interested in knowing what exactly is happening, what's the result. People are more interested in, okay, so what's your findings? So I think those are important aspects to that we need to pay attention to, because if you don't get it right at that particular place, then every other thing you're doing is not going to be good result. So that aspect of troubleshooting things and trying to ensure that you're doing it the right way, and getting what needs to be gotten is very important, for instance. So I think that's one aspect when it comes to the place of being a researcher. But when it comes to like public health advocacy now, for instance, uh so one aspect that I feel is invisible is, especially for me, what I've noticed over the years is community engagement, stakeholders involvement. So most times this is an aspect that I feel it's so invisible. This is a background work, meeting with the local community, meeting with the maybe the community leader and all of those things, all those background works. Those are the background works that you have to do before even doing the advocacy itself. And there are times when you feel you've done all the background work and you've already planned. There was one that happened recently. You've already planned, oh, this event is going to hold. And on the day of the event, the same people say, no, 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 we're not going to allow this to hold. Right. So I think these are things, I won't call them a challenge, but these are some of the invisible things that goes on the ground that nobody sees. People just, people go on LinkedIn and then they say, oh, Nasi just organized something, something, and they don't know the work that went behind it. I wish my program manager was here to, to tell some stories, right? I feel those are invisible works that we do that people don't really know. They may not be aware of, not really because we don't want them to be aware of it, but there may be no need to like showcase that in public, right? But these are things that we do and then helps us to get our desired results. Because, for instance, if you don't carry the necessary stakeholders along, if you are not engaging the right people in your advocacy work, I can assure you it's going to be a flop. So these are things that are very essential, but it's actually invisible and people do not get to see. Yeah.
Wow, that's a very good point you raised, because the truth is, until you said it, when you said it, then I was like, that's so true. Because I never would have thought about it. Because I can imagine if you wanted to do like a propaganda and be on the road or whatever with flyers or whatever, educate people, and you haven't gone to do all of the necessary background work to tell over here, maybe like the county in West Africa, maybe like the local government, the
Mm-hmm.
officers, they would shut down the event, literally. So that's definitely an invisible work that you do. So people would see the outcome on
Mm-hmm.
that day, but they would not know how much you may have put in, which may have been going on for months. And sometimes some
Yeah,
events get cancelled, gets rescheduled, and people
exactly.
are like, well, they are not serious, but the truth is, they don't realize what's going on. Because they'll be like, no, you can't do it because somebody has a personal something at stake, and that would just put a wrench right there, a wrench, and that, yeah. So that's actually really, really powerful, and you're right, that's very invisible. I didn't think about it, but excuse me. Wow, thank you so much. Let's see what gives you hope, because I know right now it just sounds like, I don't want to use the word doom, but it sounds kind of doomish, if there's a word like that. With all of the climate changes, and it almost feels like some people feel like that COVID was meant to happen, or with all of the changes and the things that are going on around the world, with what do you think, what gives you hope with regards to the future of global health? Any, you can speak to any of your areas, whether water or sanitation or wastewater, or your research, or any part. What gives you hope with regards to global health, public health also?
Mm.
Or is it all doom and gloom?
Definitely not.
Good.
Yeah, I believe there's always a light at the end of every tunnel. So I think one of the things that gives me hope, and this may also sound a bit absurd, is number one, I feel our youth gives me hope. Like, especially in Africa, I've seen a lot of our youth doing great things when it comes to this aspect that you mentioned, like climate change, for instance, global health, and all the rest. For instance, talking a little bit about NACI, for instance, it's more of a youth-led organization, and I've seen, young people very eager to get involved in a lot of our activities. I've seen them, eager to take up leadership positions and all of that. So I would say one of our hope lies in the power of our youth. That's number one. Then also, technology is also a leverage. We're now in the world of AI. We're in the world where you can know a lot through technology and through AI. So I think um, the advancement in technology is also like a hope. I believe we can actually harness technology when it comes to the issue of climate change, public health, global health, and use it to our advantage. I know it has its own limitation, but I feel we can use it to our own advantage. For instance, I've seen people using making apps, and through the apps, you can get to maybe speak with a medical professional or ask some questions, and the app will give you the right, like the accurate answer and those kind of things. I i don't really know how to frame it, but I feel technology is also something that gives me hope. When it
Yeah.
comes to advancement in technology, is also something that I feel is a strength that we can leverage on. Then, like I said, our youth, and I feel a lot of people are also getting more aware of these issues. For instance, when you search for, what are some of the organizations working on AMR, you will see quite a lot. So a lot is going on compared to maybe 20 years ago, compared to, for instance, let's take HIV/AIDS, for instance. The rate at which people are more aware of, the disease itself, how you can prevent it, and all of that. These are things that, shows that there's actually improvements in spite of all what is happening. There are a lot of improvement taking place, and so those are some of the things that gives me hope. Our youth gives me hope, and advancement in technology also gives me hope. And we being willing to work together to bring about the change that we desire is also something that I'm hopeful about, that could help us in solving some of these global health and public health threats.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to just take a minute to have some acknowledge some audience members of the audience, people who have been putting in comments. Dr. Augusta, thank you so much. She was saying thank you to Miss Taiwo for sharing your story.
Thank
And
you.
Augustine Igwe, so he says, "Good day. I'm a student who is privileged to be in this space. I'm looking forward to learning a lot." So this was earlier in our conversation. And then I have Akasu Mujib who says, "Wow, MRSA in water. This is my first time hearing that." Absolutely. And then Dr. Augusta again says, "It's sad that antibiotics abuse is also perpetrated by our medical colleagues. Education on this topic is needed." Yes, yes, yes. And that's it. That's a sub spot that she has brought up. So thank you so much to our audience. For those who are just joining us, let me see if I can see on LinkedIn. For those who are just joining us, I am having a chat with Miss Taiwo Alawade, who is really wonderful and who's been really wonderful and very knowledgeable, and she's really been dropping a lot of insights, and it's been such an incredible time talking with her. She's a public health researcher, and she's a team lead of the Next Generation Antimicrobial Stewardship Initiative. And her focus is on water, sanitation, and antimicrobial and wastewater surveillance. Right? I'm kind of speaking over the top of my head because your CV is so broad. Thank you so much. She's a microbiologist, also a microbiologist researcher. She's really been giving a lot of insights from different angles, and I really appreciate the time that we spend. So we'll be doing maybe one or two more questions to round off. What advice would you give someone who wants to make a difference but feels overwhelmed by how big these problems are? Because these are really big problems, and
Mhm.
what you just said, I said it's not all doom and gloom, which is good. I always like to keep a positive insight, a positive perspective. no matter how bad things are. So I'm happy to hear that, and I'm also very happy about what you said earlier, that the youth engagement has been really positive, and the awareness is getting stronger, and technology also is being used as a leverage in passing out information, and also hopefully breaking down misconceptions, tearing down wrong and negative um, information, so that the truth can get out there. So, what would you tell someone who wants to make a difference but is feeling overwhelmed with how big these problems are?
So I do believe that any impact you want to make or change you want to make, it actually begins with you. That's number one. So change starts from within, and then you can affect other people. And I believe in the philosophy of one person at a time, right? The whole world could be too big, for instance, for you to focus on, but why not start within your neighborhood? Why not start within, not even before saying your neighborhood, within your family members? For instance, educate them on AMR, educate them on the need, why they need to make sure they finish their antibiotics and not just take it halfway and then dispose the rest in maybe a waste bin and all that. So looking from within, starting from within, then people around you, then you can spread it to your community, and then to the nation, and then to the world at large. So I believe is one person at a time could make a big difference. So it's not, there's really no reason to feel overwhelmed. It's about you knowing where to start from, starting from within, reaching out to your family members, reaching out to your larger community, to your network, maybe your place of work, educating them about some of these issues, for instance, like maybe AMR, maybe issues like water sanitation and hygiene, maybe issues like, I remember there are times when I'm talking with some of my people at NASI, and maybe one of them said, "Oh, I've been sick for a while," and I just tease them like, "Oh, okay, okay. Oh, were you able to take antibiotics?" And they tell me, "Oh no." I didn't take antibiotics. Like, I just wanted to kind of know if we're actually practicing what we
What they
actually
preach.
say that we are
Mm.
doing. We are educating people, don't do this. Hope we're also not falling victim of that same thing. So my advice would actually be, you could make a difference from where you are. Like, you could make an impact. Like when NASA started, I saw the need that there's a difference that we can make. And I didn't start by changing the whole world, right? I started from, my community. Then I started spreading to other places. So one person at a time. Impact is about one person at a time. You don't necessarily have to go for the whole world at the moment, but you can start that one person that you had a conversation with at work, or maybe in your place of religion or any other place. What are you telling them about their health? The truth is, because we're in public health, we think a lot of people know a lot about their health, and they are taking wise decisions about their health, but a lot of people don't really know. And ignorance could is not an excuse in the court of law, but ignorance could really be something that has been causing a lot of damage, especially in this part of the world where we believe in clinical medicine, which is very great, but we've ignored the place of preventive medicine, where public health comes in. And we can save billions of dollars just by putting in place these measures that prevent the illness in the first place. But we live in a world where we would rather wait till we get that disease rather than exercise, eat good food, eat healthy food. So I strongly would advise that you can be the change you want. Start from within yourself, because don't just like don't tell people to do what you don't practice. Right? That is one of my philosophy. So start within yourself. Then you can then share what you know with other people. Those you've shared it with can then share it with other people, and then it becomes a chain of change. So that is one advice that I would always give people. We have big problems in our world, but we can, change one person at a time. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. One takeaway, be the change you want to see. So it starts with you. And even when you change, people are observing, because a lot of times
Mhm.
people will do what you do rather than what you say, especially when it comes to your family. So
Yeah.
that was actually really good. That was really good. Thank you so much. I wanted to just touch gear a little bit on global research funding. it may not be something that you're directly involved with, especially here in the US now with how it's become kind of tough for scientists working in prevention, equity, global health. What's your experience been like in navigating the space? And if you're not directly involved with funding, it's fine. Or if you have maybe even a second level involvement and you want to share, feel free.
Oh, yes. One, I think what I would like to say is that
Mhm.
when it comes to funding, a lot of time, for instance, maybe in the US, people focus on public government funding, but
Mm.
I also believe that there are a lot of funding, at least that I see on a regular basis, that are private based fundings. That I
Mm.
think this situation that is currently happening could help us to maybe shift our focus from where we are used to, like the NIH one grant, the
Mm.
NSF grant, all those things that we're so used to. We can also look for other grants. We have the Rockefeller Foundation, we have so many other private organizations that are, even companies that are willing to, give to
Support
researchers
the work.
to
Okay.
support research. I think so as researchers, we should also think outside the box and also
Mm.
yes, so I actually believe that government funding shouldn't only be our main focus. We should also try to look outside the box and look for fundings in other aspects. Then aside from that, I think one of the things that reflecting I've learned from what is happening currently is that sometimes as researchers we are so glued to academic, go to the lab, do my research and all that. But I think what is happening now is teaching us to look beyond that and see how we can also provide value beyond the academic environment, beyond the lab where we are in. How can you kind of provide value that people need? For instance, I'm sure that in the next few years we'll have a lot of people starting up their NGOs, being consultant, maybe for instance I can say, okay, when I'm done with maybe particular thing, I want to go into consultancy, and I still make my money as a researcher. So we've been able to think outside the box, aside from what we are just so used to, is something that we are learning during this period that I also think would be helpful. But just like I said earlier, looking for funding in other places, there are a lot of fundings within the private sector which I feel we can harness as researchers during this period. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you so much. That's a good point because it also boils down to awareness. Because there are some
Mhm.
people who are on tap resources, both individuals with trust funds, and then even
Mhm.
companies, local companies that they are not even aware of the work you're doing. And sometimes when they know that you're doing something like that, they would want to be behind it. So that's a very, very good point. So we're not just always looking up to the government and looking for foreign aid or even your own local government, or your national government helping you. So just one fun question: if there's any fun part of your work, what's one fun or unexpected fact about your work, your daily work, that people might be surprised to learn?
This is, I don't know if this is fun,
Okay.
or but I think like as an environmental microbiologist, someone that is practicing environmental microbiology, I
Yeah.
think you know going to the lab, watching the microbes grow makes me happy, and seeing them grow in different colors. Like sometimes
Only,
when you're growing
oh,
them on a particular media and you see those colors. I'm just intrigued
yes.
about the world of microbes because it's so invisible that we don't see, and I think that is where most people kind of get things twisted, because when you tell people wash your hands regularly, wash your hands after using the toilet, they can't see the microbes, right? They can't see E. coli, for instance. They can't see enterococcus with their naked eyes. So when you tell them do this, do that, they feel, oh yeah, yeah, you're just being too doing too much. But going to the lab, culturing these things from people's hands and seeing them grow makes you appreciate what exactly we are telling people to do. So I just enjoy, that's just that I know that is super odd, but I
No,
just
well, to me it's
watching.
not odd because that was my because I when I did microbiology in medical school and also in during my I did lab rotations in micro. It was one of the best part of my rotations as a fellow. It was so fun. I enjoyed working with microbes. I literally all what you were saying. It's so funny with the different colors and doing tests like the D test, for instance, where you put an antibiotic and then you see the perfect D shape. You're like, wow. I get all excited. But maybe a non-scientist or non-microbiologist may not get the fun
Eh,
part, but that's fun still. I totally get it. I totally get it. Oh wow, I can't believe it's already 46. I thought this was gonna be like a 30-minute quick behind the breakthrough. It was so amazing getting to uh, go behind the scenes in your lab and see the person that you are and how passionate you are with the work that you're doing. Thank you so much, Taiwo, for sharing your work, your insight, and your passion. Your passion literally shown through every single word that you spoke today. And there was so much insight, so much new information, and I will probably have to go back and watch the replay. And for those who missed the live, the replay will be available both on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So this kind of conversation is the reason why I wanted to start this series, because it literally brought attention to how powerful the science happening behind the scenes, right? And the people who are making it happen, right? And usually quietly, like you're talking about what you're doing. And the truth is, even the one that you're doing that is even supposed to be visible, for the most part, is even still invisible. But the ripple effect and the effect of what is doing, lives that are being saved, the economic impact to government and to people's individual family resources is powerful. So thank you so much. We appreciate what you're doing. To everyone watching, I hope you leave today not just more informed, but more inspired and inspired to do better, right? Because science is not just about solving problems; it's about people, and each one of us, every single one of us, can make a difference. Like Miss Taiwo said, today you heard something that you can take a run home with. So you can start by being the change that you're seeking for. And I was actually going to make a point when I talked about one of the audience comments about how doctors are sometimes perpetrating the antimicrobial resistance when we write prescriptions and for illnesses that don't need antibiotics. So if you're a physician listening, we can do better. And if you're a patient, don't try to convince your doctor when he says you don't need antibiotics. And then, like Ms. Taiwo said, if you were prescribed antibiotics, finish the course of the antibiotics, because there are several implications of that. If you take it halfway, you may not completely treat the infection, but the microbe would develop a resistance to the drug. And then the other part, which is the environmental part, is that remaining pills that you discard gets into the wastewater, ends up causing a way bigger a ripple effect than you may have anticipated. So when we share stories like this, we build connection, we build empathy, and maybe even each of us can develop courage, like Ms. Taiwo had alluded, to tackle these health problems in our own lives, in our families, and one at a time will change the world. Right? You agree with me, Ms. Taiwo?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, if today's episode moved or sparked your curiosity, please share with your network. Follow me here on LinkedIn for more updates and also more. We'll be continuing this series. Thank you, Ms. Taro, for being my very first guest. It was really, really enjoyable talking with you. I had so much fun and I learned so many new things. It's unbelievable, actually. And subscribe to Subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Contagious Doc, Dr. Tina Agbausi. If you search, you find me. And also like, follow, thumbs up, whatever you need to do. So let's keep honoring the minds and the hearts behind the science. And like my banner says, kindness is contagious. Be kind to yourself, be kind to your world, be kind to the environment, and let's just do better, because now we know better. See you next time. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay. In the stream.